not being emotionally motivated isn't a flaw, it's just a different way of operating. So I want to dive into that here in a second, but before we do, remember subscribe, give a thumbs up, drop some comments below, questions, concerns, things that are working, things that aren't working. I'd love to interact with you guys in the comments below. I also wrote a free ebook, The 10 Confessions of a Self-Aware Narcissist. The link will be below or in the show notes. Go ahead, check that out. It's free to download and take a look at. Okay, so I want to talk about being emotionally motivated, or actually not being emotionally motivated as a narcissist. So in my observations of normies out there, that a lot of the interactions, activities, conversations, and so forth are really motivated by an emotional desire or emotional connection and that type of thing. And for me, with being a narcissist, and many of you who are narcissists, we're not actually emotionally motivated in the same way as normies are. We're really motivated much more by function and practicality and so forth. And this is obviously when we're in a self-aware state, because otherwise we're being motivated by unconscious desires and needs that aren't the topic of this video, but other videos about narcissism. So what does that mean to be motivated by emotion versus being motivated by function or practicality? So basically, this grew out of essentially my confusion as a young person in interactions with other people, because I didn't naturally have empathy and emote in the same way other people did, but everyone around me, for the most part, did. And so I had to learn some way of operating in that would help make sense. And so as I grew and developed, I learned to be motivated, or understood that my motivation came from like what I could get out of the situation, like what was in it for me, or how this might benefit me, and the purpose that I'm up to, or whatever the case may be. And so that's one good thing to understand if you are someone in a relationship with a narcissist, that one of the baseline operating equations or operating purposes is that question: what's in it for me? Now, when you're in an unconscious state and you're busy manipulating, as the narcissist, manipulating your world and trying to stay safe, the what's in it for me is very well, it's always self-centered, but in sort of the negative connotation of self-centered. But the truth is as you become aware of yourself as a narcissist, it's not like that just goes away. Though maybe it lessens a bit, but it's still there as sort of a foundational piece of navigating the world. And so rather than trying to stuff that away, what I've been learning to do is use that in a way that's purposeful, that makes my life better, and ideally the people around me have a better life with me as well. So there's nothing wrong with the idea of what's in it for me. And really, in a certain sense, I would say that either all or almost all of even the normie's motivation really could be tracked back to what's in it for me. Now that might be to have more of an emotional connection with the other person, or other things that are maybe in it for you that aren't where I would be coming from, but they're still there. So I'm not trying to say we're all narcissists, though narcissism is a scale, and everybody lands somewhere on that scale. Those of us with NPD, narcissist personality disorder, we're just way over to the side on that scale, where the rest of you probably are somewhere earlier on or lower down in the scale, but still have that what's in it for me, looking out for myself type of thing. Now, I know a lot of people who suffer from like codependence and so forth, they actually have to learn to stand up for themselves or look out for themselves, but it's still intuitively in there. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about one of the ways this showed up recently. So recently, I was at a fair with some of my family, and one of my daughters was there, and her new close friend, boyfriend, I don't know, however it's labeled these days, was there too, and his parents came to the fair also, and we were visiting a little bit, and then the parents invited me and my daughter's mother, my ex-wife, to come over for dinner after we're done at the fair. They left to go prepare dinner. It was kind of an impromptu thing. I didn't expect that, which immediately threw up my guard, like, oh no, a social situation that I didn't plan on. Do I really want to do that? I kind of didn't, but I knew that it was something that would be important for my daughter, for me to go and, at least make an appearance and, try to act normal. So we left the fair, and it was like a 5-minute drive to their house. And we'd had two cars, so I was driving by myself over there. And I was feeling anxious, feeling nervous, kind of like all that stuff that comes up for me, for the narcissist, when I'm about to be in an uncontrolled situation where perhaps other people are expecting something of me, like to be normal, like I just said, or whatever it is. But rather than just kind of stew in that anxiety, what I decided to do was really consider, okay, what is the purpose of this? Like, what purpose or purposes can I tell myself that this social situation is really about, so I can enter, with a little bit more awareness and not just sort of that reactive anxiety from the narcissism. And so I was like, well, okay, my daughter probably would be happy if, I get to meet this guy's parents, and, just so they feel like it's a safe or good situation, and they're, happy with, the two of the kids spending time together and so forth. Or, if he's going to come to my house, so they feel like it, that's safe. They can send their, their teenage son to my house, or if I was driving him around, or whatever the case may be. And then also just, these people are being friendly, and they probably just want to like know me, who I am a little bit, what I do in life. So I really thought about it. It was like I really laid out, okay, it's like, who am I? What do I do? Okay, well, I'm a chiropractor, so I can talk to them about that. And I enjoy the outdoors and doing things in nature. And I happen to know that this guy's father was interested in cultivating mushrooms. I already knew that piece of info, and I love mushrooms in general. Just I think they're like the coolest thing. And I do a lot of mushroom foraging in the fall. So it's like, okay, we can talk about that a little bit. So I just really prepared myself with both some like of my own background info, which might seem silly to have to review, which I'll get to in a second, but also just like, what's the purpose? So I can continue to, like, when I start to feel anxious or nervous or awkward or weird, I would be able to keep reorienting myself back to, okay, this is why I'm here. I'm not here because these people need to find out that I'm a weirdo and I got to hide it or any of that stuff. I just need to keep in mind that those purposes I named are what this is about. So, and also reviewing those things that I should just like intuitively know, and I do, before I went, like, what I do for a living and what I enjoy. The reason I did that consciously then, before I was into the stressful situation of being around other people, was really to be prepared. Because what can happen, and what has happened so many times in my life, is I find myself in that situation having not prepared mentally like I did in this case. And suddenly it's like I can't even come up with like what I like to do, or what are some interesting things about me that somebody else might want to know. So reviewing that beforehand, as silly as that might seem, really was helpful. And what I found was, while I didn't love being there and doing it, it wasn't that bad. I wouldn't say that I had a lot of fun, but it wasn't terrible. And I felt more at ease than typically in those type of situations. And it was really because of this few minutes of preparation I did. And this relates to what we're talking about in terms of being motivated by purpose versus by emotion. Because if you enter those situations consciously with some preparation, like I was explaining that I did, it allows me to enter with my own natural operating system of purpose-driven practicality, but be able to meet people where they are, which is, emotionally driven, whatever the case may be. I don't really know what other people get out of social situations necessarily. I mean, I can guess, but, everybody's a little different. So that's what I did, and it really worked great. I mean, it wasn't like 100%, awesome or whatever, but it was way, way better than it would have been had I not spent those few minutes really orienting my mind to the purpose, the practicality, and reviewing some of the things that I might have to share about myself. So this may seem like unromantic, uncaring, that kind of thing, depending on the relationship, but it's really not. It's really about creating stability through conscious choice, rather than relying on this wild emotional fluctuations or a lack of empathy or lack of emotional feeling that I may have naturally in the anxiety and all those things that would come up typically. So this is a great example of living with a different operating system isn't really about fixing yourself. It's really about embracing how you actually operate and then taking the time and the attention to consciously choose how you operate in the world, knowing those things about you. All right, hope that was helpful. Remember to subscribe, give a thumbs up, likes, drop some comments below. I love interacting with you guys, asking questions. What's working for you? What hasn't worked for you? Does this make sense? Does that not make sense? Whatever the case may be, drop some comments below. I love interactions. All right, you guys take care, and we'll see you next time.